Hey YouTube, this is going to be a video, another nursing video, you guys. I know from my last videos I've been getting a lot of questions in regards to nursing school, especially studying and so forth. I know I've been getting people on Instagram and so just different on my different social media platforms. People are starting to follow me because of nursing school, which is so exciting because this is a journey and we're all on this journey if you are in nursing school or going to become a nurse very soon, or you're in prereqs right now, you're planning to hopefully successfully get into a nursing school. So I'm so excited for this new journey with you guys and taking my channel on a new direction. So I'm really excited for that. So I finally decided to do a video on how I study for fundamentals of nursing. Now, most nursing students are going to take a fundamentals class. If you're in BSN, you're probably going to incorporate it with other classes. If you're in an ADN program like myself, then you're just going to probably just take fundamentals your first semester and that's it. So of course, again, BSN is going to be a little bit more intense just due to the fact that you have more classes to juggle. But again, if you are in an ADN program like myself or plan to apply for an ADN program, then you will just have to worry about fundamentals and the actual lab fundamentals, and that's it. So I'm just going to kind of break it into tips and what I did. So the first tip I can tell you guys is, of course, y'all know I love Jesus and the Lord, is just to pray. Pray before test, pray during test, pray way before test. Just pray and just, try to get a calming feeling before you take tests, because I think sometimes, especially with nursing school, a lot of people don't mess up on tests because they don't know the content. Because some people, they really know the content like the back of their hand. It's just they're too nervous, and test anxiety is really, really serious. I actually have test anxiety, and I feel like praying is probably one of the only things that helps calm me down before test. So I definitely recommend to pray before test and pray way before test. Ask God to be with you before you take your test and on test day, because they'll kind of give you a calming effect when you pray. I just feel like it helps me out to calm me down. So definitely look into praying or just having a good relationship, with the Lord, and just really praying, because nursing school is hard, and I feel like you have a lot of stress, and the way to keep you calm and not to stress you out, which helps me a lot, is definitely praying. Alright, next thing is, don't procrastinate when you have a test. And I know some people are like, what? I know in nursing school, I might procrastinate now, but when I get to nursing school, girl, I'm gonna be studying weeks before a test, 10 days, 14 days before a test. No, girl. There's plenty of people in nursing school who don't study until last minute still, or barely study still. And it's a bad habit. Because in prereq, certain classes, I know my psychology class, I could literally study the weekend before a test and get an A on it. There was one time I literally studied the weekend. Actually, all my tests, pretty much, I studied the weekend in that class, and I got an A in that class. And I would get A's on all my tests, pretty much, except for one, and that was because it was online. I didn't study at all. So I was like, that's different, because a lot of times it's basic, words, and sometimes psychology or word-based classes, that's a lot of terminology, comes a little easier than a class nursing class, and where it's a lot of deep thinking, critical thinking to it. So definitely don't wait until last minute to study for a test. I studied for my second test that I got an 8 on. I studied about probably 10 days or a little bit more than that. I wasn't deep studying, but it was more so I was just reading and highlighting the first couple of days, just kind of seeing what was important. And then I started to really look and read through the pages, read what I highlighted, try to do any type of critical thinking exercises in my book, just to kind of give me a better idea of what I was going to take the test on. So you don't have to deep study. I'm not saying sit there 2-3 weeks before a test and you're studying 3, 4, 5 hours a day, but I am saying, maybe a good minute before a test, you are at least looking in your book, highlighting information, utilizing what you have in front of you, just so that you can get an idea of the material, so that when you're a week before the test or a couple days before the test, you're not trying to study to remember, you're just studying and critically applying it. because with nursing school you have to understand that you can't critically apply a question if you don't know what the question is even talking about. For example, our second test, it was talking about like we were going over ostomies, which is pretty much like a little where they take like a piece of your intestine and pull it out of your skin so that you can pass stool. Due to whatever reason you can't pass stool, and like one of the questions was like, if the ostomy is in this location, you know, what kind of stool would it be? So you might, if you don't even know what an ostomy is, you're gonna be like, what the heck is that? I don't know what that is. So you wouldn't be able to answer the question and really apply it. So it's kind of like that with school in general. I've noticed that if you know the information like the back of your hand in terms, you can think deeper with it, because if you know something in the back of your hand and someone asks you like a question that is kind of piggybacking off of what you already know, you have a better chance of answering it correctly versus incorrectly. Okay, so a next tip is going to be, don't read the entire chapter, skim read and highlight. That's kind of piggybacking off what I just said. You do not need to read a chapter. I'm gonna show you this book. Now this book is really ratchet. I've ordered it as a rental and they tried me. Like, look at this book. They tried me. So I'm probably gonna start buying my books because they try my life. But I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna show you this. So let me see. Which did I just highlight? Oxygenation. Okay. Here's an example. This is like the chapter I kind of was going through this test. So when you are studying, because this is Potter and Perry, our book is Potter and Perry Fundamentals of Nursing book, and this book is big as heck, and you're going to spend probably more than a day trying to read this. Now some people can read the entire book front and back and with no problem, but I hate reading, and I can only imagine if I sat here and read, I probably would fall asleep so many times before I even get through it. So what I like to do is I go through first. I like tab it. I like to tab it so it can be easier to find. And then what I'll do is I'll go through my notes, and anything that my professor touched on in our notes, I'll highlight it. So if she touched on a term, or she said, hey, this box is important, aka this is probably going to be on the test, which normally if your teacher says this box is important, it's going to be on your test. Because we had a ton of questions off of like one box, and I was like, I'm so glad I was studying that box. So any boxes or tables that they say in the book, highlight that, highlight everything. Any words that they had in their notes, highlight all the words. Anything they said, you know, it's not in my notes but you need to know, highlight that in the book, and go through all that first. Then after you do that, you can just go through and just find anything that just looks important. Like say if we talked about stomas in class, maybe go through stomas and highlight, you know, the different types of stomas, where you can put different stomas at, you know, is there a difference when you put stomas in different places? So try to highlight everything that looks important, which you can usually tell. So usually I highlight like different color words, so like terms that are highlighted, words that are like slanted, have a different font. If it's like the start of a paragraph, like this paragraph is talking about ureters, I'll maybe highlight like the first sentence and the last sentence. What else do I do? Again, tables, any tables that the teacher said you should know, definitely highlight all of that. And just go through anything. Sometimes you'll go on a page and you'll barely highlight it because it won't, like everything just seems like it's a waste of time. You have to kind of highlight like you're a teacher. Like what could I expect her to ask me? And you can really tell what's important. Like on the test, everything that I highlighted was that I actually did highlight was actually on the test. Now, will you accidentally over highlight? Yes, you will. But when you come to nursing school, you'll learn you rather over study than understudy. So definitely keep that in mind when you're using your book. Yes, you will probably highlight a little bit more than what you're probably going to see on your test. You'll probably overstudy, but if you overstudy, you at least know that I'm probably going to study a chunk of stuff that she went over or that will be important for my test, versus let me just study, you know, my notes, and your notes are really basic. And as I'll tell y'all now, our outline notes are very basic, and I'm pretty sure most nursing schools, their notes are basic. It literally will be like a term. Sometimes they'll have some definition by it, but I'm gonna tell y'all now, sometimes you'll get your notes and she'll give you like her or he, they'll give you like their quick definition, like that sums up the term. And then you take your test, and honey, they got the book term on it. And you're like, what the world? This ain't what I studied off the notes. I learned that my first test. It was a term that I was studying the definition she gave us in class. And in class, when we had our test, I was like, what is this word? I don't know what these definitions are. It doesn't match to what she told us in class. And then I went back to my book, and I realized that she used the term out the book. This is why it's important to not just use your notes for studying, to really probably use the book as your main study source, and then kind of go through your notes and use that as almost a refresher. Alright, the next tip that I have for you guys, and I'm sorry if this video is going to be long, but I know people are probably like, I need to know what to do in fundamentals. So if this video is long, I'm sorry y'all, but I do want to help y'all out as best as I can. But the next tip is going to be flashcards. Now, don't be like I was before, and I made flashcards for everything. I had like 1,000 flashcards. That's not, flashcards are supposed to be for important information. It's supposed to be for stuff that you cannot remember and you need a little extra help. So what I do is, I bought this little container from, well, did I buy it? Or my boyfriend? My boyfriend bought it for me. And then you can get this from Walmart. It was only like a couple bucks. And what I do is, I took all the things that I was struggling to remember when I was studying. So like, we had like key things like how much you would normally output urine in a day, how much urine your bladder stimulates, different words, like I had like urgency on here. What else? Different incontinence, which is difficulty, well, pretty much which is not controlling your pee. I had all those different terms on flashcards. So pretty much I just went through everything that I was having a hard So pretty much I went through everything that I was having a hard time remembering in my notes, and I would make flashcards of those. And this is still a good chunk of flashcards, but it's not too much flashcards. So what I would do is I just went through, and anything that I had a difficult time remembering, anything in the tables that I couldn't remember, like I would look at it and I would be like, I can't even recall this, like this is blank, make flashcards of it. And what I would do is I would like go through my book and read my book, and then sometimes I would just go through my flashcards real quick before I lay down and go to sleep, and just kind of go through them. And I love flashcards too, because maybe if you're at work and you can't really study, like get your book and read and do things like that, you can at least maybe possibly pull your flashcards out and go through them, so at least you're getting some type of studying done. But again, your flashcards should only be like what I can't remember, or like pretty much what I can't remember. Because if you can remember your book and what you're reading in your book, but you can't remember one term, it's no point of making a flashcards, like a million flashcards of everything, when the only thing you're really struggling to remember at this point is, you know, these couple, like, you know, maybe 50 terms or whatever. So I definitely think this helped me a lot too, because on our test, it was some things that I was having the hardest time remembering. Like probably like 2 days before the test, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna remember any of this stuff. And I tell you, I got like all these questions that had to do with these flashcards right on my test. So this definitely helped me. So definitely look at getting into flashcards. I also like the color ones. They have basic white, but I feel like the color ones help me remember stuff better. And I also write on them with color pen. And you can get white ones, but I just feel like the color ones help me more. They do cost like $1 more than the white ones, but it's definitely worth it. Alright, next tip is, if your book comes with a study book with study questions, definitely purchase the book. I had to buy this one. It was like $20. It wasn't that much, but it comes with it goes with our Potter Perry book, and with each chapter it has like 50 questions in there that goes through what the book is. And of course it's going to touch on the important stuff. So this book is really helpful. Our teachers don't use questions directly from this book, but it's still, I like it because it just gives you an idea of questions that they may ask. It also helps to put the information further in your brain, because these questions are going exactly for how the chapter is. So it just helps to further help you remember information. So I try to go through the questions. I usually do the multiple choice questions, because it usually has like 20. Like you have to write the question in, and then it'll have like some multiple choice. Like you'll see this one, like I didn't do like barely any of the right in questions, but then I do, if I flip the page, sorry y'all, I'm trying to find a page. Okay, so yeah, if I flip the page, then you'll see like I did all the, like, pretty much all the multiple choice questions that I know would probably be on my test. Now, some questions in here, you know, like, we didn't even talk about this at all. This is probably not going to be on our test, so you can skip over that. But anything that you know, more than likely something similar like that would be on my test, definitely do those questions and do practice. I even sometimes write little things next to the practice questions so that when I go through it again, that I remember why I got the question wrong. So say if I got a question wrong, I'll write why did I get it wrong, so that next time when I go through it, I can remember. Alright, next, something that I use, and I would kind of use this sometimes as a refresher and just for the practice questions, is definitely get you guys a NCLEX examination type of book. There's a ton of them out there. I got this one because literally everyone was like, oh, this is like the best book ever, holy grail nursing book. I got this one. They have a newer one, but I heard that it has the same questions in it and like the same content, and pretty much all NCLEX books are going to have the same content because, I mean, you can't really change nursing stuff, but it might have different questions, so it's good to have more than one. But right now I just bought this one. I'll probably buy another one like when it comes to med surg and psych and stuff. I'll probably get like a couple of books before the end of nursing school, because again, the more questions you do, the better. But this is the one I use in fundamentals, and pretty much what I did is I went through, because at first I didn't know how to utilize this book. So what I did was I would just go through, so say we were learning about, again, the gastric system and ostomies or whatever. So I would, I think where's one? We were learning about wound care. So I would go and I would find, you know, wound, or like go in the back and look up like in the glossary wound care or whatever, bandages. And I would find it in this book, and it will kind of have like summary of everything. And this book goes with Potter and Perry. So if you're using Potter and Perry in your class, you definitely should get this book. If your nursing book has like a NCLEX book that kind of is written by some of the same people, get that book. Because this book goes with Potter and Perry. So I used this one, and I would just find, you know, go in the back of the book, find the term, find the page, go on the page and highlight, you know, all like the definition. And this book is great because it pretty much just summarizes the important stuff that you need to know about the term. So I would do that, and then it has practice questions in the back. Like here's another one. We were learning about pressure ulcers and like the different stages. So it has like pictures here, and on our test we had pictures. I was thrown off guard, but we had a picture, so definitely look at pictures and stuff. And it had like just other terms that we should know, like we were supposed to know for our test too. And it pretty much just summarizes everything. It has like NCLEX style questions in the back, and these books are really good. Now this book isn't too great for fundamentals just because it won't have a lot of fundamental content. It might have over content like the drink, and then med surg, peas and all that stuff is going to be like the food on the plate, right? So this book won't have a ton of stuff to help you in fundamentals, but again, a little bit helps. You would be surprised. Like this book, I didn't find a ton of stuff, like everything that I had to study for, but I found a good little bit, and a little bit did help. I didn't find a ton of study questions on what we were going to test over, but I found a good little bit. I found maybe 10 questions, which again, anything helps. And these type of books are really good because these books are specific for the NCLEX. These books are designed to go with the NCLEX. So things in this book are probably what you're going to see on your test. So if you can get a book like this and just to start kind of going through questions that would be similar to what would be on the NCLEX, this would help. Again, you're not going to find 1,000 questions in this book for fundamentals, but again, any little bit helps. Alright, so lastly, I'm going to show you guys how I study too. And another tip for me is to definitely, when you are going to study your notes, definitely study your notes and try to write important information down. So this is an example for me. Like with my notes, I would pretty much highlight, like I'm a huge highlighter, so I highlight in different colors and I'll write like different things down. So say if the teachers explain something in person and it's not on my notes, I'll try to write that term down. If I go through the book and say in my notes it's not really describing anything, I'll try to write what, you know, sum up what this term means, and just highlighting. Again, I use my notes as a piggyback. I focused more on my book, and then I would just kind of use my notes to kind of just piggyback off of what I learned in my notes. What I learned in my book. So I literally would just, again, highlight anything that my teacher didn't go into detail on the actual note. I would write it down, and I would just highlight a lot of stuff. I also like to tab my notes so I can keep them organized. I'll like put tabs on them, which helps a lot too. But definitely when utilizing the book, when you're in lecture, try to print out the outline so that when you're like, when they're talking and say they're like going into detail about something that in your notes it looks like nothing, you'll just write down important stuff. This way, when you're refreshing your brain, when you're kind of, it's a couple days before the test and you're just trying to refresh everything, you can go look at your notes and say, okay, this is the summary of what. Because it's really good when nursing school to not only know book terminology, but know like real world terminology. Because again, in the hospital and actual nursing school are totally different things. So it's good to kind of know like how kind of put things in your term. Like, oh yeah, ostomy, the book could say it is da da da, and you could say, oh yeah, that's when they pull a piece of intestine out of your skin, to help them da da da. You get what I'm saying? So it's good to know information again like the back of your hand, so that you can know the information not only to pass the test, but in the real world too. Another thing, I know you guys are like, you did all this for one test? Yes, y'all. We have our ATI book. I don't know where it's at. I think it's in my car somewhere. It's somewhere here. But I have my ATI book, and our program is like in cahoots with ATI, which a lot of nursing schools are. And with ATI, when you're in nursing school, you'll have things and videos and information that you'll have to watch on ATI just to give you an idea of what to study for. And at first ATI sucks because it's kind of boring and they have like these long videos and they kind of overdo stuff that in the real world. I'm not going to do all that, but ATI is very helpful, and the factor of they have a lot of practice questions on there when it comes to certain things you're learning in school, like different labs that we've done. They have like practice questions, and then they'll have like practice tests at the end of the summary of like what's the example? Like say we're learning about wound care. It'll have like practice questions about wound care, and they'll have like a practice test at the end about wound care. So you get a whole bunch of different questions to help you remember the information. It also has videos, and in the video they are talking to help you out. And they also have tests that you can take on ATI and fundamentals. Like it has like fundamentals 1, 2, and 3. And on those, I tell y'all, like that test helped me, I think, a lot too, because it'll have a ton of questions pretty much trying to go over things that you should be learning on your first test in fundamentals, and your second test of fundamentals, and your third test. If you have ATI in your program, utilize ATI, because your teachers are utilizing it too. They have to. They have to utilize everything that they're giving for your class. So if they have to use ATI, best believe they're probably looking at ATI questions in the book and stuff to see what you guys are learning, because everything has to meet up and come into cahoots. So I would go through my book and I would highlight the ATI book again, just the important stuff. And I love ATI too because it kind of summarizes everything. In your actual book, you will have like Potter and Perry, again, is thick, as y'all saw. It's thick as heck. ATI literally will sum up an entire chapter in Potter Perry in like 5 pages, sometimes 8 pages. So it touches on the important stuff. So definitely utilize ATI. Again, I utilize ATI again as a refresher, because usually most of your test stuff comes from the main textbook, and then ATI is kind of, again, a piggyback. It's like the summary. It's kind of like, all right, I got the information now, because ATI will not tell you definitions really. It won't break stuff down. It pretty much is like almost like this information. Now I'm just going to break it down a little bit more for you so you can further understand it. So utilize ATI as a refresher, but definitely study your book. And ATI, again, the book has like 5 practice questions, and then online, like the website has a ton of stuff. So definitely utilize that. And again, with ATI, your school is you're paying for out of pocket. I had to pay dang near $700 for my ATI stuff. So best believe I'm going to utilize it. So definitely use those practice questions, practice tests, those videos. Utilize all that stuff to help you with studying for your test. Now, if you're like, how did you study? I know a lot of people are like, well, so did you study this first or that first? Or, how long did you study? It varies. The only thing I can tell you guys is definitely start studying way before your test, maybe 2 weeks. This next test coming up, I'm going to see how I do, because I'm going to probably start looking over my notes today, and my test is in 3 weeks, and I'm going to see how my test grade improves from that. This is why it's important to study way before a test, because you want to be able to incorporate a lot of different things so that you can understand the information. And you want to study way before a test too, because I like to take breaks. I don't like to study a week every single day, because my brain will be fried and I'm be tired, or if I get sick. Like my last test, I was on my period and I was not feeling good, so I took a day where I just barely studied. I think I just looked at my note cards and that was it. If you've been studying 2 weeks in advance, if you want to take a break a weekend, or you want to take a break a day and go out with your friends or hang out with your man, you can do that, because you're like, well, I've been studying for 2 weeks already, so I know I got a lot of this information in my mind, so I can take a day off. And believe it or not, taking breaks and taking a day off and having a day to relax really can help you in school, because for me, I feel like I remember stuff a lot better when I take a break versus if I'm studying constantly. And this is why I say don't procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, you're going to have to study that whole week before a test, or that whole 5 days constantly, and not take a break because you haven't been studying before. So that's why it's important to me to do that. But there's really just no perfect way. I definitely just say utilize your book, go through the chapter, highlight all the important stuff, key terms and boxes that your teachers let you know you should know. Also, you know, if they told you anything that you should know, definitely highlight that in the book, and just read through your book. Read through everything that you highlighted. Read through all the important terms. Read through all the stuff that you think is important, and keep, every time you study, just kind of read through the chapters, read through everything you highlighted, and do that kind of constantly every day, at least like 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, even an hour. Usually it takes an hour anyway to go through a book that you highlighted, and do that, you know, a week and a half before your, you know, week and a half. And then start, after you feel like, okay, I got the information in my mind from the book, then start doing, like I said, the practice book. Do practice questions, and then go to your NCLEX book, you know, get summaries of what you learned, do more practice questions, and then, you know, go to ATI, do more practice questions. Practice questions save lives, y'all. I know they say C gets degrees, well, practice questions help you too, because honey, practice questions really help, because more than likely you're going to see a question similar set up to that question that you probably did like on a practice basis. I'm telling y'all right now, to succeed in your, because a lot of people struggle in the first nursing class because it's kind of like, what is the heck, like they don't really know how to study. And let's be real, a lot of us don't know how to really study. We've been getting by doing the bare minimum. So definitely to succeed in a nursing class, you have to put your all into it. That means I'm studying the book. That means I'm doing practice questions. Sometimes I even look online and Google questions. Like, I'm trying to incorporate as much as I can to pound, because you want to just continue to pound info in your mind. And the only way you're going to really get that, girl or boy, is to just pound it and pound it and pound it. It's just like your mama. It's just like church. If y'all singing the same song at church every Sunday, you gonna, by the 5th or 6th Sunday, you gonna be like, yeah, I know this song like the back of my hand. Because why? Because you were constantly getting told and hearing it and singing it and whatever over and over and over again. Just like your favorite song. You know, you over here like, you know, see, what's the song I love right now? Or everybody know what Cardi B song. Why do everybody and their mama know Cardi B song? Because you hear it on the radio all the time. And if you hear something and you see something and you see her lyrics, I don't know, whatever you're doing all the time, you're going to remember it. And that's how you have to look at nursing school. Just reading a book ain't going to help you. You got to incorporate as much tools as you can to get the information in your mind. So that's all that I can tell y'all. I'm sorry this video is really going to be really long, but I hope that it helps someone out there. Because I know definitely this is working for me. I'm kind of came to the conclusion that if I don't get a B in this, if I don't get an A in this class, I'll be okay. I want an A, but I'll be happy with a B, because again, nursing school is not easy, and even getting a B in nursing school is heaven sent. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video helped someone. I hope that my tips helped someone in my things that I did. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoy.